Alright, what is happening, RET family? This week's book review is let's say The Power of Now then. Letting Go by David R. Hawkins, The Pathway to Surrender. This was the first book that I read on my one book a week journey. I'm currently reading one book a week, and it is a monster, mate. It is a monster. 360 pages, real small text, quite difficult to read, not necessarily easy, but I was like, you know what, if I don't read this because it's too long and I'm reading a book a week, then what is the point of reading a book a week if I'm not reading books because I'm worried about them being too long? So I was like, sod it, I'll go straight into the deep end, straight into something quite complex and quite big and hard to understand, and I managed to get this one done in a week, and in comparison everything else is like seeming easy at the minute. So I've read this 2 weeks ago. I've read Stillness is the Key last week, the week before I read this one, so I've got some notes on my phone. I remember a lot of it, but it's not fresh in my head because I have read a whole book in between this. We're also going to try and do this in one take, absolutely nail it, no editing. We are going to do this in one take, even if I mess it up, okay? I'm feeling a little bit tense and a little bit, I need to let go, man. Fucking let go. A little bit anxious. Come on the balcony. It's difficult to record a different environment. Outside, basically outside our apartment. Beautiful marina in the back. Sun's going down. What a place to be quarantined. Glorious, lovely evening. So that is why we're recording outside. Also, I like to put myself in place of judgment. It makes you grow as a person, and it makes you feel a little uncomfortable and stops you from getting complacent when it comes to recording in like a nice, controlled variable room where no one's judging you, no one's looking at you, blah 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 blah. So, takings from Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. It's a similar vibe to The Power of Now. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Power of Now, so if you had to read one, I'd read The Power of Now, but I do recommend it, and I'm glad that I read it nonetheless. It goes on to, it's like a similar book in terms of how it's spiritual and how it's based. It talks about energy, and it talks about your mind and consciousness and being present, and the premise of the book is basically that we're always looking in the future. We're always looking in the future for happiness and fulfillment, and in order to get that happiness and fulfillment, we don't need to look for other things. We don't need to be like, oh, I'll be happy when I get this, I'll be happy when I receive this thing, when I get to here, when I do this. That's the mind projecting like the making your mind and your ego working to give you this false sense of happiness in the future, like the carrot that you're always chasing. It's hanging off the string that you're never going to get. It basically goes by the notion that fulfillment and happiness is in this moment right now, and in order to get there, you just need to let it go. Let go of your emotions, let go of those negative feelings, let go of all that anxiety, stress, whatever it is. Let it go, be present, and then once you've done that, once you're able to do that, you'll be more conscious, more present, and you will have more enjoyment and fulfillment and overall real raw happiness from life. So it says that happiness is achieved by looking inside. I need to slow down a little bit, not by looking for external things. It's actually really weird doing a video knowing I'm not going to cut it, because it's like I can cut it and then get rid of all these like pauses and all these stutters and all these like little micro gestures where I do something that means I'm not sure of myself, but it's like raw because I'm not cutting it, so it's like adds to the anxiety and adds to the pressure. But I kind of like it. It's like recording YouTube videos again, like first time. So it goes on about how happiness is achieved by looking inside, not for external things. And the only way to achieve this happiness, like true happiness to your full potential, is by letting go. It goes on about feelings. There are three main ways that we handle these feelings, negative feelings, these feelings that cause us unhappiness, negative emotions, and bring us all this grief, stress, anxiety, blah, 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 blah. We handle these feelings in three main ways. Number one being suppression and repression, number two being expression, and number three being escape. So suppression and repression, the way that we handle our feelings, number one out of three. Suppression happens consciously. It's when you ignore a negative feeling and you suppress it. Repression happens unconsciously. Because you have so much guilt or fear, you choose to ignore it and you subconsciously push it down, ignore it. But that's not a good thing to do, because it's not getting rid of the feeling. You're not making these negative feelings and emotions go. You're just stuffing them down, trying to ignore them, and they're going to build up over time. Both of these methods accumulate emotions, accumulate this negative energy and emotions, and they form our subconscious. So by suppressing or repressing things, these negative emotions, this negativity is becoming part of our subconscious, which is obviously not good, because we don't want to be negative Nazis. Our mind deals with these feelings through denial and projection. So these negative feelings that we've got inside our head from suppression and repression, ignoring things, pushing them down inside us, our mind deals with it, it gets through it by living in a state of denial and projecting things onto other people. You project the feeling onto the world and people around you, and it says that if you're not willing to experience a feeling internally, you experience it externally. So if you're not willing to let the feeling go, acknowledge it, experience it, and get rid of it, if you repress it and push it down, then you're going to cause yourself to experience it externally. You're going to experience this negative thing externally in your life. So you might get angry, you might judge someone, you'll project your own negative views and opinions and thoughts onto someone else, and it's not the correct way of dealing things. Suppression and repression is not good, but that is how a lot of us, the large majority of us, including myself, live, because we don't want to let go of the feelings, we don't want to face them head on, we don't want to acknowledge them. If there's a problem, we'd rather ignore it. Like, we've all been there for relationships, loads of things, friendships. You, rather than addressing it, rather than nipping it in the butt before it starts, you choose to ignore it. Number two, the way that we deal with emotions is expression. Feeling is expression, so body language, verbalization of things. So if we feel something, we express it. If we feel it in our body, we express it in our body language, we express it in the way that we're speaking and our verbalization of things. It's probably why in this video, at the start, I was speaking very, very fast. We've got to quite a tight voice box, and I'm gradually letting it go as I'm getting used to this environment and not really getting used to the judgment and not giving a fuck about what other people are thinking. So you can tell in my body language, maybe I'm singing a bit differently, maybe I'm verbalizing things a bit differently, a nicer tone, and now I'm thinking about it, it's going to cause anxiety to creep up again. And expression is the second way we deal with things. Expression releases the pressure of the feeling, then it builds up and it is released. So it's like, do you know you get a valve where you get to a critical point in, let's say, there's this like boiler and it builds up to a certain amount of pressure, and there's this valve that releases at a certain amount of pressure. It just blows off all this steam suddenly because the pressure has got too great, and then the steam's going to begin to accumulate again. Then when the pressure gets too high, unless you release the tap to the boiler, it's going to blow off this valve again. So that's basically what expression is. You get all these negative emotions, you get this thing inside your head where you get to a point, you get to a boiling point, you get to a breaking point, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you explode and you burst, and it releases a little bit of a pressure, a little bit of those negative emotions, but you still express them in the world and they materialize, and it's something not good to do, and it's not nice to be around, and it's gonna put you in a bad place in your life, and it's not gonna benefit you as a person. And then you release a bit of that pressure, and then it builds up again, and then you release a little bit of it again, it builds up again, it builds up again, it builds up again. And I would say that is due to you suppressing and repressing things. The emotions can come out as expression. So negative feelings are vented out in bursts. Suppressed grief, that can happen as well. It's not just anger, it's not just you raging. Sad events, a fearful person, so it gives these examples, okay? So it goes on about it is the law of attraction. So if you're fearful, a fearful person will create frightening experiences. If you're scared of a lot of things, you'll find that these people have a lot of scary things happening to them. An angry person will be surrounded by infuriating circumstances. There'll always be something around them that will make them angry, and a prideful person will always be insulted. It's no coincidence that these things happen, as in if you're very prideful, you'll always find someone to insult you. If you're very angry, you'll always find someone that pushes your buttons or crosses your path. You know, what are the chances that someone's like really positive and outgoing and that gets rid of their feelings and emotions and lets them go and acknowledges them well? Why don't they get into lots of fights or lots of altercations? And why does this angry person just happen to be really, really unlucky? It's probably to do with expression, about putting yourself in these situations because you're expressing that emotion, and the law of attraction is going to mean you're going to gravitate more of that emotion towards you because you're not letting it go, you are holding it in, and that gravity is going to attract similar things. So number three, the way that we deal with feelings and emotions is escape. The avoidance of feelings through divergence, so just escaping them, running away from them. Short-term gratification is another way that we escape these feelings. So we drink and watch media. We try to escape our feelings by doing things such as drugs, partying, social media, things to take our mind off it. Just basically not living in the present, not acknowledging these feelings, not letting them go, not being conscious of them. We cloud our mind and cloud our judgment and do these things as a form of escapism. So staying unconscious so we don't have to focus on what's inside. We choose to stay in this unconscious state so we don't have to focus on what's inside. I'm just going to check the settings on the camera. I'm not cutting it because it's getting a bit darker outside, isn't it? Let's go up to ISO 1600. Shit. Bam, there we go, beautiful. So, right, those are the three main ways that we deal with our feelings, and we deal with our feelings pretty much. So we've got suppression and repression, we've got escape, and we've got expression. But that is not all there is. Obviously, these are very negative. All the examples I've given you are not great. They're not good things to do. They're all about holding on to emotions, holding on to feelings. But there is another way to express your emotions, and that is by letting them go. Letting them go, which is the premise of the book. So you do this, you let go by focusing on the feeling and not the thoughts. You don't focus on the thoughts that are making you have this feeling. You focus on the feeling itself in your body, the way that it feels, the energy that you feel inside your body. You focus on it, you acknowledge it, you don't judge it, and you let it go. So pursuing the thoughts, pursuing the things that are causing this feeling in your body. The book goes on about pursuing the thoughts with thoughts will only create more thoughts. So it's a paradox. If you're trying to pursue thoughts with thoughts, you're thinking about the thoughts, which is generating more thoughts. So it's going to be the snowball effect, and it's not going to get you anywhere if you're trying to get rid of these negative thoughts or let them go. You observe how you feel, very similar to meditation, very similar to the power of now. You observe how you feel, you observe the feeling, you let those emotions come up, you don't resist the emotions. It won't be nice at first, it might be a little bit horrible. You observe those emotions, you don't resist the emotions, you let go and succumb to that feeling. So holding in the emotions means that you experience it in the internal, and it keeps it alive. By holding onto it, you're letting it manifest inside you, and this law of attraction is going to cause more of that negative thing, whether it's fear, whether it's being outraged by things. It's going to cause you to attract more of this into your life. So the more you let it go, the more free you'll be of these negative emotions, and the more free you will be of these thoughts. Goes on about very similar to the power of now, in the sense that thoughts are projected by your mind, and it kind of steers you away from consciousness or presence. It always makes you look forward to things in the future. It projects your mind projects the past into the future. You're living in the future, you're not living in the present moment, and the present moment is how you ultimately achieve this happiness and fulfillment. So the books are very similar in that sense, the power of now and letting it go. The more you let go, the more you'll be free of these negative emotions, and the more you will be free of your thoughts. You reach a moment of quietness or moments of clarity where you're in touch with your true self. The book then goes on to scales of emotions and energy levels. It talks about as well how when we're experiencing negative things or negative emotions, there are grip strength tests that we can do, which basically show how strong you are. And it goes on about these studies and these notions that when you're thinking of something negative, when you're fearful, when you're experiencing apathy, when you're experiencing grief, you score lower on grip strength versus positive emotions where you're far stronger. So it gives us scales of emotions in terms of the lowest levels of emotions. It goes over apathy, grief, pity, fear, and then basically the more you let go of these emotions and these feelings, the more you rise up through the levels, the more clarity you experience, and the closer you get to this enlightenment or presence or consciousness. So the lower end of the scale in terms of energy levels and where you're at and where you're sitting is all about materialism. It's all about havingness. That's at the very bottom of the scale of vibrational energy, and I can't really remember it, to be honest. I'm not going to look it up in the book. What a shit book review this is. The lower end of the scale is all about materialism and what you have, havingness, having things. The next level from the bottom after, so it's basically goes on about this notion of you let go of these feelings and you can slowly transcend up this scale, this ladder, becoming more present, more conscious, and as you let go of these emotions and as you practice it more and more. So the very bottom, you're having materialism. You've got this thing called havingness, where you're materialistic. It's all about what you have. Next level is you value what you have. Next level is you identify with what you do. So you identify with what you do, it becomes part of your identity. That's kind of the middle level. And then the final level in terms of letting things go, where you can transcend up to, is you value the essence and presence and the power of being. This is what you value, and this is where you find presence, where you find this consciousness after going through those lower levels. That explained a little bit shit, but you'll have to read the book. There's like 360 odd pages. So the way I like to think of it is letting go of things. It's like, this is kind of like meditation as well. It's like clearing your internet cache. You're letting go of emotions. You're clearing out this cache inside your head. You're letting them go. And by letting them go, by acknowledging them, by releasing them, it's gonna, oh, fuck off Siri. It's gonna put you in this better state mentally. You've got more clarity. You're happier. You feel more fulfilled, and life is gonna be a lot better. We're not cutting it right now. Suppression, expression, and escape leaves those emotions there. It lets them leaves these feelings there. Suppression, expression, and escape leaves the feelings there. It lets them fester. It lets them stagnate. It lets this thing called the law of attraction happen. It lets gravity gravitate you towards similar negative situations, and you just get deeper and deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. So as I said, it's like clearing an internet cache, letting things go. You acknowledge them, you don't judge them, you acknowledge your emotions, you see how they feel, you don't try and push them down, you don't ignore them, you let them come up, you acknowledge them, and it's not going to be nice, it's not going to be pleasant, but by doing that, that is how you become more conscious, and that is how you get out of that state of living in the future and these states of low vibrational energy. So that was the first video I've ever done where I haven't cut it. First video I've ever done on the balcony as well. And I thought it was alright. I might do more of those. Give me a comment, guys. Give me some confidence in this. I know that it's very difficult to post it on the Facebook page. Give me a comment on the video on the Facebook page. I know it's difficult to comment on the videos because you can't actually comment directly on the site, but I fucking love it when I see interaction on these videos. So that was letting go. That was my first video of absolutely no cuts. That was my first video on the balcony being judged, and first one that made me feel uncomfortable in a long time. I will be doing more of these as well. It feels nice now. It feels a lot better than it did at the start. But yeah, letting go, I'll probably give it I'll give low ratings. I'll give the Power of Now an 8 out of 10. I'll probably give this a 7 or 6.5 out of 10. It's quite hard to read. It is very long. The text is quite small, but it is good. It is valuable, and it can benefit your life. And it goes over similar notions and similar concepts to the Power of Now. But yeah, book takings, first week of a book a week. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace out. I love you to bits. Goodbye.